Oh my God, what am I doing? Hi, welcome to Just Thinking Out Loud. My name is Desi-Rae. I am speaking today with Jeremy Kauffman about a very important story, something that's close to my heart, even though I don't talk about cryptocurrency a lot on the Just Thinking Out Loud channel. It's a space that I've been involved with for many years, and Jeremy and his team have been building something that I use a lot and that I mention as a YouTuber because they're building an alternative to YouTube, a place that censors a lot of content creators, including me. And they've recently announced that they've been in a, I guess you could say, battle with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC for the United States. And I was very, very interested in hearing about that. And it does not only affect what they've been building, which I'll have Jeremy talk about. So I'm excited to get into this topic and have you guys learn about it, spread awareness, and maybe support what they're building. So hi, Jeremy, would you please tell us who you are, and we can go from there.
Hi, Desi-Rae. It's great to be here with you. And I'm Jeremy Kauffman. I'm the CEO of LBRY. And LBRY is a protocol that does to publishing what Bitcoin does to money. And what I mean by that is it allows you to have local control, sort of true ownership of your content, of who you're following, of all of your settings. We make things like YouTube possible, but without that point of control that exists via Google. And what we've done has definitely made some people mad, including the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Okay, I just want to say some of you probably have not actually used LBRY and Odysee, which is the same thing but another version of it. It's a very nice interface. A lot of people like it. It's also, as Jeremy said, decentralized, so it's everyone using the tokens, which have gotten the platform in trouble. But it's like you're using. I tried to explain it. You're using the blockchain, and the blockchain runs with tokens. It has its own tokens, and then just the way the video publishing works in terms of uploading videos and users liking, they use these tokens in order to interact on the platform. And because these tokens also hold value, the SEC, from what I understand, which I'm going to let Jeremy explain, has gotten a bit upset over that because they've appreciated it, the tokens have appreciated over time. But I just want to say, if you haven't actually used it, I have been following alternative platforms for a long time, and LBRY really does have one of the best interfaces out there. I've always thought that, and just on that alone, I think it's important, and it's not just the visuals, but also like usability as like a someone who is viewing it and someone who is creating and using it on the back end. So
That's right. So I'll get into the case in just a second, but so what LBRY is it's an open standard, it's an open technology, and like Bitcoin, there's more than one way that you can interact with the Bitcoin network. And Odysee.com, which we also make, is the easiest way to interact with and use the LBRY network. And if you're used to using YouTube, it'll feel very familiar, but you'll find that you have more privacy. You have to watch. You don't have to watch all of these ads, and that it just generally has a set of policies that's much more respectful to the people using it. But I want to differentiate between LBRY, the technology, which is an open standard. We have a white paper that was accepted by IEEE, which is a very prestigious engineering organization, versus ways that we interact with the protocol. And so what LBRY is, and I'm happy to get as nerdy as you want to get in terms of what LBRY is, but the key idea to understand is that LBRY is this open standard. There's more than one way to use the network and interact with it, just like there is with email or Bitcoin. And Odysee is the easiest and most popular way of doing that. And it was used by about 20 million people last month.
yeah, I was actually just about to ask like what the growth has been like over time. Like when did, before we get into the SEC thing, when did LBRY and then Odysee start? And I'll try and put a screenshot, I think, here for people to see as well. And I mean, you already said it, but do you have any other eye-popping numbers? Because 20 million sounds like a lot.
Yeah, we're into more than 10 million pieces of content. If you go on to Odysee.com and look, you'll find tons of creators that you know. And so that's another thing I wanted to comment on. Yes, there's this censorship on YouTube, and I find that offensive. But the idea of not having big tech, watching over everything that we're saying to one another, the idea that we don't need to have this intermediary that's taking 50% of every dollar that's made. There are a lot of problems with big tech beyond just censorship in terms of how exploitative it is to the people who use the various platforms. And so it's not just about content that's at risk of getting deletion. This is a technology that's better for everyone.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I did an interview recently with someone, and he was saying that if you're not paying for it, it's already bought or something when you're viewing or experiencing content. So this is a way for you to exit out of channels that they control a lot of the media landscape, because the incentives behind it are, clickbaity, make money, advertising revenue, and that influences the way the media landscape is shaped, and I might even say adds to a lot of what people don't like about politics today. So I'm not saying that Odysee is the only way to do this, but if you actually want to be supportive of changing that without really changing that much about your life, because you can still watch the people you want to watch, then I would say go to a platform like Odysee and watch content there instead. So that's just saying that to my audience.
Yeah, it's not the only way, it's just the best way. And so yeah, if you're still on YouTube right now, pop on over to odysee.com. You'll be able to pick up watching this video right over there, and you'll be able to do it in a way that I think will earn Desi-Rae more money. You'll be able to earn a little bit of cryptocurrency yourself if you validate your account, and we can take back control over what we watch and experience, and we don't have to cede that control to people who don't have our best interests at heart.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get into what's been happening with the SEC. Apparently, you were keeping this to yourself for a while, which I want to ask you about too, like how that felt. But what's happened? If you could break it down for us.
Yeah, so I a lot of people, basically everyone at the company did know, and I wanted to tell everyone years ago, quite frankly, because we operate very transparently as a company, not just with our source code, but with our finances and everything that we're doing. And I actually think that's a big part of why we're in trouble, is because we've been so honest. But we've been under investigation as there's been an open case against us since May of 2018. We haven't attempted to fight that case. We're not being alleged. So we've been like, yeah, like we've been very open. Like the evidence against us is like things that you can download from our website. And then the SEC and we're just like, yeah, we did that. Like we think this is allowed. And I think what's going on is there is basically a suppression program against cryptocurrency that's being waged by the United States government. And I'm not too conspiratorial. I'm not saying that there's this grand conspiracy, but the IRS is trying to suppress it, and the SEC is trying to suppress it. And in this case specifically, what the SEC is alleging is basically any cryptocurrency project which is actively developed and being improved, those tokens remain securities for as long as that technology is continuing to be improved by a group that's working together to improve it. So it's not about us being a U.S. company. It's not about various other facts. We didn't do an ICO. They're not alleging fraud against us. We didn't enrich ourselves, so they're not alleging that we, violated various fiduciary responsibilities. This is straight up, if you sell a crypto token while simultaneously developing or improving that token under the standard being advanced here, that's against the law, is what the SEC is saying. We think that is not the correct reading of the law. We've been working with Perkins Coie, which is a very prestigious law firm, since before the case was very open. They say it's not against the law. And I think this is a big overreach by the SEC, and I think it's going to end up being a mistake on their part.
Okay, I'm going to ask you at the end also, but could you tell people where to go to learn more about what's happening?
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Help. I'm so bad at my job. Help LBRY savecrypto.com is a website we've set up with a bunch of details about the case. The full complaint is available there, as well as just a general FAQ with a bunch of questions that we've gotten about the case.
Yeah, I'm also gonna ask at the end, but it's just good to say it as soon as possible because it also sticks in people's minds better. So I want to mention that I actually sat in on the SEC's court case against Telegram. I think last year in February 2020, because I was reporting for Block TV, which is like one of the things that I did for them, and they were using the Howey test. And this is not anything legal. It's just like my understanding. What they were saying is the way securities traditionally work is that the security represents some asset that's being managed by a team or company. And so if that security or what the security represents is being improved upon, then the person who's holding the security has this expectation that the security will go up in price. And they really, really highlighted the management aspect of it. So that's what I'm gonna guess is what the angle that they're coming from. But the way you just described, like the thing about cryptocurrencies, which makes it very different from how the technology that the law was formed around in the past, is that the token cannot be separated from the thing that's being developed. So in the past, when a security represented something, it wasn't intricately connected to like how the thing functioned. Like that, I feel like that's a very big change in, I guess, the product in this case. And you also use the word if you're selling a token, and I'm also not so sure that like sell something is the right word here, because that implies that the ownership is solely belongs to, I guess, LBRY. And I'm not certain that like the actual blockchain or protocol, or I don't know. It's just these terms like sell, own, manage, they don't apply to the crypto space the way that they traditionally did. And it's very, I think maybe the SEC is getting that wrong. But I just wanted to say, I'm guessing that that's where they're coming from.
Yeah, so this is the Howey test is the key test here. It's a law that's about 100 years old and wasn't really written with this kind of technology in mind. And so you end up having one of these, philosophical questions that's sort of like, like, is a hot dog a sandwich, or is a Pop-Tart a sandwich, or, these kinds of things where it's like, it might have some of the properties, but it doesn't really have all of them. And in our case, we don't control the network. We don't have the ability to force updates on people. It's a public open source blockchain. If we tried to do, something evil, like, 50% of all money earned has to go to us, like it does on YouTube, we have no ability to force people to take those updates. And a really crazy implication of this is because we didn't sell any, so we didn't do an ICO, and I would say that selling is the appropriate term for what we did with our tokens. We sold some of them at the market price, always below 10% of what was being exchanged in any one day. So we weren't dominating the market or anything like that. And we did sell some after the network was fully functional, after you could buy Hollywood movies and there's, a large amount of content and lots of people using it. And we said, okay, we'll sell some of this. We kept a small reserve for us so that we could sell them. And what the SEC is basically saying is, because you continued to improve it, that's what made it a security. And so, even setting aside the law, though I think we'll be okay on the merits of the law, just from the perspective of morality, it's an absolutely absurd standard to say that we could have walked away with more than $5 million in 2018, but because we didn't walk away, because we took that money and tried to make something that already worked, we wanted to make it work even better, we were then breaking the law by doing that. And, why would we want to create that set of incentives for cryptocurrency, the people who are working on it? That is a really terrible set of incentives to be creating.
Okay. And something that I want you to clarify is how this is not actually just about LBRY, but about the crypto space in general. And I just want to say, I have described myself as a crypto enthusiast before. I have another channel. I mean, I haven't been making any videos that's all about crypto. I worked for a crypto company also. So this has been like another facet of my life that I've only like mentioned here and then. Also similarly with my art on just thinking out loud. But I think that crypto is a really big deal. Bitcoin specifically also is a big deal. It was the first, but just the whole idea of decentralization and changing ownership structure is something to note also about this SEC thing that I've seen someone mention online. Is that they're going after these, I guess, a company like, is it a company, LBRY?
There,
But
yeah, yes.
like the blockchain is like everyone is benefiting. So it's the SEC is there to protect individual investors, but it's almost as if they're starting to go after the people that they're supposed to be protecting when they're going after cryptocurrencies. So I think that's important to mention. So before explaining how what's happening with LBRY is really a precedent for all of crypto and any platform that uses tokens, which is any platform that runs on a blockchain. Um, it doesn't. I mean, LBRY has its own specific blockchain, but I think it's all of crypto. I just
It
want to. Yep.
Yeah, well, I did you I so I do think it's all of crypto because basically everything is continuing to be improved. And again, it doesn't have to be with being in the US. It doesn't have to do with the corporate structure. It doesn't have to do with how the tokens were acquired. None of those things are central facts in this case. If the people working on Ethereum too are in a chat room and quote coordinating their development, and those people also own the token, well, while they're selling their Ethereum 1 tokens, they're still developing Ethereum 2. Now Ethereum 1 is a security because it wasn't a quote finished technology. Now, of course, the notion of a finished technology is absolutely ridiculous, but that is what the SEC is essentially alleging here. And so I do think, right, and some people say, oh, the SEC ruled that Ethereum is not a security. That is not true. There is no law that makes Ethereum not a security, and there's nothing stopping the SEC from going after Ethereum tomorrow. And so I'm not trying to like drag Ethereum through the mud. I'm just trying to make it, because I think Ethereum's a great technology. I'm just trying to make it clear how broad the standard they're applying in this case is and how disastrous it could be to the industry if they manage to get it to stick. And one other thing I wanted to highlight that you said that I should have highlighted earlier, because it's a really big point. There's no victim in this case. There is no individual who is alleging that they bought a token, they bought a LBRY token and felt that they were misled or scammed or otherwise tricked or manipulated or anything like that. So this is the government on its own initiative with no one filing any kind of complaint deciding to pursue a case against us.
Yeah. I could you I guess I know you just said it, but could you explain more how it is that this might impact the rest of the crypto space, like maybe other examples of technologies that are underway that the SEC, I guess, could be going after? Could you just go into
Yeah,
more
so I
detail?
mean, I think the SEC is trying to basically ship of Theseus everything into being a security. So, ship of Theseus is you have it's an old uh, ancient philosophical experiment where the idea is you have a ship and you remove like a board one at a time, and what's the board at which point it became an entirely new ship. The idea, and so you start from one thing, you end up with something completely different, and then you say it's the same thing at the end. And I think that's what they're trying to do with cryptocurrency. So they're trying to go sort of case by case and get it to the point where literally every cryptocurrency is a highly regulated financial instrument, and there's no ability to freely exchange them. Every exchange between people, you have to file all the appropriate paperwork. Only you have to buy very expensive licenses to build websites that deal in cryptocurrency, and everything has to be tracked and monitored, and the government has to know about every single exchange in a highly regulated way. I think that's the world that the SEC and the United States government in general is interested in accomplishing. And I think that this is a case that they're using to attempt to build towards doing even more of this. And that's why I think it's a risk to the entire industry.
Okay, I don't think that what they're proposing is possible because yes, the US is like I don't know what number economy in the world. Like, did like China surpass it or something? I don't know. I don't
Well,
remember that details.
feasibility is not frequently a requirement in the government passing a law, right? We've seen the war on drugs. We've seen plenty of other failed government initiatives where the government, they don't care. They want something to happen, and they'll do their best to make it happen, whether it's possible or not. And so, what instead we'll see happen is, yes, they will utterly fail to stop cryptocurrency from being something that changes the world. But what they will do is potentially, well, they already have stunted the industry in the US, and they could damage it even further. This is an area where the US should be a world leader. The US is generally a world leader in technology, and the United States government has taken one of the most aggressive anti cryptocurrency stances of almost any country. Although, again, I want to emphasize it is not relevant that we are a United States company. The law here would apply to any company. So if we had been based out of Switzerland or somewhere else that is more friendly, that's not going to stop the United States government from saying those tokens are securities inside of the US.
Right, but it's just going to limit United States citizens from interacting with these platforms, and the U.S. A lot of people use companies or use their products who are in the US. So I think the US customer base is well sought after, but there's a whole big wide world out there. So it's really just going to be, as you said, detrimental to people in the US at the end of the day, which is what has happened already. I wanted to mention something else. So I guess I was asking you the question, but I'll just say what I wanted you to say, which was so cryptocurrency, we're speaking about it in the context of video publishing and something like YouTube now, but it can be applied to, I don't know, betting, for example, betting markets, or gaming, or
Almost anything. I mean, yeah, fun. No, I didn't come. I'll tell this story because I think it's relevant here. I didn't come at blockchain and cryptocurrency because I was interested in creating a new financial instrument or even coming at it from the finance side at all. I came at it from a computer science side. I've always been into computer science, and what a blockchain fundamentally is it's a new type of database. And a database is a too complicated word. You can think of it as an Excel spreadsheet. That's what Bitcoin is. Very, very simple. You just have an account and a balance, and that's all it does is it keeps track of this information. But what blockchain showed is that we can have these types of systems, these databases, and we don't have to cede control of them to any one party. And that enables that property can change all kinds of industries and all kinds of fields. It can change corporate structures via things like DAOs. It can change video games. It can change publishing.
decentralized
Yeah.
autonomous organizations. Just don't want to use acronyms. Sorry,
Thank
continue.
you. Yes. No, that very good. Yes. Thank you. And so all kinds of things where we don't want to put all of this power in one entity or one person's hands, we can now keep that power much more distributed. And I think this has I'm almost disappointed in the cryptocurrency industry at times because they're so interested in the financialization. And I think that's very important. I'm not against that. I just wish instead of it being like 90% that, it was maybe like 50% that. And we were pushing and doing more in other spaces because I think there's so many interesting things that can be done with this technology. And we're almost limiting ourselves by focusing entirely on the financialization. The fact that it has a price, that's true of any freely floating and freely traded good. By the way, that was another ridiculous thing the SEC said in this case is they were asking us why we couldn't fix the price of a freely traded good. And I was like making my brain explode as they continued to ask why we can't do this. And I'm like, that's literally impossible. Like, we know that that's impossible. There's like this huge pile of evidence as to why this is impossible. And they kept bringing it up like it was this possible thing. And so I do think that's another part of what's going on is like, quite frankly, like these people have very narrow knowledge about the world. They don't know that much. Their job is to regulate, and they go out and they try to regulate everything they can regulate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the point I was trying to get at is that like this isn't going to stop at social media platforms. Maybe they started with social media platforms like Telegram or LBRY because like that's a, you know, to be conspiratorial. Maybe they're trying to work with the whole government colluding with platforms for things that they're interested in, whether or not that happened just because people believe in particular things. There's like some collusion going on, so maybe the SEC is a part of that. I'm just saying. I'm not saying this is true. I'm just I'm just a very imaginative person.
Yeah.
You know, so
If you
maybe
if you if you want to be conspiratorial, there's plenty to work with here because the facts of our case that they're charging us with, we didn't dispute. So like by the time of like I don't know August or September, but certainly by the end of 2018, like it was like okay, like these are the facts, like like, and they waited until we were getting press in the New York Times and Bloomberg and having record numbers of people coming onto the platform in response to big tech continuing to treat their users and customers like crap. Then that's when the case finally dropped. So I did find the timing a little bit odd, but I'm not alleging any specific kind of conspiracy. I have no specific knowledge to that.
I'm not alleging it either. I'm just saying, like, I think this could be possible.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, they're best friends. Like, that's Facebook started some of the worst censorship it was doing in the run up to election was because they started getting pressure from the uh, from the I forget the organization, but one of the Democratic organizations was putting a ton of pressure on Facebook to start
ADL,
cracking down.
maybe?
I don't know. Sure. I don't know. I don't recall. No, probably what I don't know what it was. But yeah.
Okay. Yes, I just want to say, like, this doesn't end at LBRY or social media companies. It's a really big deal, and like whatever they're doing here, I think they will try to apply it to other industries. And yeah, it won't work, but it will do like damage as it already has. This kind of urge to regulate.
It won't work. I want to emphasize that as well. Like, there is no existential risk to the LBRY protocol. There is potentially existential risk to the LBRY Inc., the specific corporate entity. And they could wipe out our financial holdings. They could wipe out our cryptocurrency holdings. There's no threat to the protocol. No one's content is at risk. There's no scenario in which anything in that space of things is happening. If they take all of our cryptocurrency and take all of our money, we'd pick up the work under a new corporate vehicle. So there's not really a scenario in which LBRY doesn't continue to move forward.
I mean, I feel like just you saying that should prove the case. Like, you don't have absolute ownership. Like it's like that alone should say like what they're looking for like doesn't exist, and that's the power of cryptocurrency, the decentralized aspect of it.
Yeah, well, there were a lot of things I said over the last 3 years to the SEC that I thought would end the case that made me feel like. There's that saying to like never attribute to malice what you can attribute to ignorance. And so I want to try to attribute it to ignorance rather than malice. Maybe that's me being naive or idealistic. I don't know. It's one of the two is what's going on here for sure.
What did it feel, or what has it felt like? What did it feel like just holding, this information, I guess, just to the LBRY team, keeping it a secret within the team for so long, 3 years? And how does it feel now that you've been able to share it?
It was a lot. It's really a big weight. It's I'd say it's probably the hardest thing I've ever dealt with. It's also, psychologically, it doesn't feel good to have that person, reading your emails, reading everything you're saying, feeling like someone is standing over your shoulder all the time. I didn't like that. I didn't like that I couldn't be honest to the community and to our users and all of that, because I like really being honest and straightforward. And our counsel said that the SEC would only they argued me out of it like multiple times, saying that it would be a very bad idea and the SEC, would only crush us harder. I want to love my country, like even if it's not perfect, I want to love it, kind of because it's mine. I want to be proud of the country that I live in, and it's been hard for me because I feel like my government is trying to destroy something that I've built, and they're not being remotely reasonable about it. We begged them, tell us any way to do this legally. Like, they're not cooperative. They're not interested in helping you figure out how to follow the law. They're interested in busting you only, and they're interested in busting you any way they can, whether it's legitimate or not, And so to see, and it wasn't like new to me that the government could act that way. Like I read stories and so on, but to have it actually happening to me uh, was hard, and it didn't feel good. I'll say that our community has been so supportive. I was worried announcing it, and telling my friends and telling my family. Well, my family knew earlier, but telling everyone that this was happening, and the support has been really tremendous. It's been really strong. It's been nearly unanimous in terms of supporting of us, and that's been really, really encouraging. And everyone on our team really appreciates that.
All right, and just let people know again where they can go.
Help library save crypto.com. There's a petition you can sign. We do appreciate you signing that. You can get on the email list for updates. This is something, it's not going to be over next week. This is a battle that we're going to have to fight for more than a year. It's going to go on for a long time. And so if you want to be involved, if you can spread awareness, if you can share that website, Help Library Save Crypto, if you can spread the petition or other things like that, politicians, as spineless as they can be at times, it is their spinelessness can be to our advantage here, right? If politicians see that there's a bunch of people that really feel like this is a big deal, the more people that are owning cryptocurrency, the more people that are using cryptocurrency, the less likely the regulators are going to win in the end. And so that is one of the reasons we want people to sign the petition so that we can demonstrate just how many people care about this issue.
Okay. All right. So I want to move on briefly to another topic, but I will ask you to mention again where people can support at the very, very end. So I have known about LBRY for a few years because I've been trying to, I've lapsed a bit, publish my content on different platforms ever since the censorship started happening in like late 2017 and then also 2018. But I met Jeremy in person, and I know him because I went to speak at Liberty Forum, which is put on by the Free State Project. It was about crypto stuff. And so I just want to mention his involvement with that because I ended up moving to New Hampshire due to the Free State Project. I don't know if you're still on the board, but I think last year Jeremy was. And we can say whatever you want or don't want, but if you could just briefly mention that if you want.
Yeah, I am on the board of the Free State Project, which is a movement to concentrate libertarians in New Hampshire. I try to keep that work fairly separate from my work with LBRY, so I want to emphasize that LBRY is not a political project, or at least not a specific kind of political project. Like, all voices are welcome. You'll find every stripe of political opinion on LBRY, unlike some of the other, quote, alternatives to YouTube. So we try very, very hard to not put our thumb on the scales, and everything is open. So I do have political beliefs that are relatively to extremely libertarian, but they're not my beliefs in my work. I do, from a libertarian perspective, I think that generally the state has gotten larger and larger. We have fewer and fewer rights. I've become very skeptical of any kind of mass libertarian movement. And I think that libertarians can achieve a lot more by physically concentrating in one space. It's been working very well here. We're getting a huge amount of Free Staters elected. I've been able to live a relatively free life despite a lot of restrictions in a lot of other places through the Free State community. You've got this network of tens of thousands of people who share your values, and it's been great. I love living here. I love that people like you are moving here. And I think that anyone who is a believer in liberty should come and check out New Hampshire and see what's going on here.
Yeah, well, I think it's. Oh, first of all, I just want to say that once you go on LBRY, I think it's very clear that it's pretty neutral. Like if you go there, you get that vibe very quickly. Yes, unlike a lot of other platforms, and I think that even though you're saying that you separate these two things, it's extremely relevant for like what we're talking about in terms of the state going after an individual when that institution was formed, and this is something that I actually researched for my crypto space, it was formed because people were complaining about being robbed, the SEC that is, by people who were selling their securities lying. So it was the SEC. It didn't initially start from that. It started from, they were called blue sky laws, because people would promise that like it wouldn't rain, or that it would rain stuff with the weather, and then people would get duped because they can't take responsibility for not, being sure of what decision they're making and being able to trust the person saying it. And so the SEC historically came from trying to protect citizens against other bad acting citizens, and that is just not what is going on here.
Yeah. Yes, it's certainly from a libertarian perspective, it's a classic story of sort of like regulatory capture, where this institution is actually defending the status quo, defending the established interests. So much more likely to defend Wall Street and big tech against the cryptocurrency, defend the incumbents against the cryptocurrency startups, rather than acting as that more idealistic and neutral kind of regulator. I mean, I'll say that I'm a libertarian, I think, because, well, one, it just feels like it's sort of my innate moral values. I'm not really a believer in sort of objective morality or that kind of thing. I have morality that I hold. I would like to live with other people who hold, and it is a fairly libertarian morality. I would like to live around other people that have that kind of morality. I wish, generally speaking, that we tried more, if we appreciated more that people do have different views and different perspectives, and rather than trying to like dominate 330 million other people and say like my view of the world is the best and the whole country needs to work this way, instead thinking about there's so much space out there. Why can't we have more space? I support communism in that sense. Like, I don't think I would like living in a communist nation, but I have sympathy for people who are communists because they don't get to live in the way that they want to live. And when humans participate in experiments that the costs are only borne by themselves, those have positive externalities. Those make the world better. They let us discover things. And I think government has become something like an oligopoly. There's no new governments. They all collaborate to exclude new things being tried. And I think it's one of the saddest things about the current state of the world, because there might be better ways of organizing our societies, and we're not allowed to perform experiments that might allow us to discover those things. And that's actually my number one problem in the world. I'm not convinced that libertarianism will lead to a glorious utopia. I think it might, but I think that a framework in which we're allowed to try new ways of organizing society would be very, very positive.
Yeah. I completely agree with the trying to dominate the other 330 million people. It's just, why are you doing this to people when you wouldn't want them to do it to you? I guess I don't need to say so. I was gonna say that I take point with one thing you said, but it's not important. I want to.
I think it's why
Yeah.
some people don't like libertarians, is partially because like a lot of people do believe that the state should be doing these things that libertarians believe it shouldn't be. And so if you say, well, I think that this is wrong, you're saying to this other person that your view of the world is wrong, and I want to take this thing away from you that you like or endorse. And you can say that that's because you're somehow right in this absolute sense, but really it's another form of domination because you're changing something that someone else likes. And so if you instead express your belief in liberty as like, well, these are my personal values, you may not hold them, but like, shouldn't, if millions of people hold them, shouldn't we have the right to live the way that we want to live? I think that's a much more powerful argument that a lot of people are more sympathetic to.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's a discussion to be had about morality, because like what people argue about in politics, most definitely, it's just subjective. But there are some things that most people they just agree on, like murder or something like that. But I'm not trying to get into that discussion here.
Sure.
I guess I just wanted to bring that up. And
I'm
then
against murder.
and then I also wanted to mention, you mentioned communism, and I guess because I like to plug this, I've been reviewing Solzhenitsyn's accounting of communism in Russia, and there were people who had their own collective farms, and they were murdered by the state over there because they did that. So, like, yes, communism, like just communism as in people getting together, that's totally fine. But communism, like through the state, is something very, very different. And I also want to mention that I actually know people who they they're like they started families with Americans, but they're from Russia, and they also did like their own version of, I guess it's like homesteading but collectively, and the FBI had a file on them, they found out. So this is in America. So it's just, yes, people can do what they want, but they're like, people also have this need to, like, control others. So I just wanted to say that. Is there anything else that you want to say concerning the case, or because we're wrapping up?
Yeah, if you're interested in the Free State Project, you can come to PorcFest this summer. Will you be there, Desi-Rae?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Maybe. Okay, putting you on the spot.
Sure,
All
yeah.
right. You have the chance to announce your attendance right now. I'm just saying. But it's a great festival. I'll be there. I'll be hanging out all week. It's a great chance to see what's going on here in New Hampshire. If you want to check that out, it's at porcfest.com. But even more importantly, if you're still for some reason on YouTube at this point, and go over to Odysee, follow Desi-Rae's channel, create that account, and help and get out of the big tech ecosystem, or at least dip your toe in the water in a place that's a little bit different, because I think if you try it out, you'll find that you really like it. And then help libraries save crypto. There's a petition on there, and if you can share that site on social media, we really appreciate that.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeremy, for explaining everything. I really urge my audience to, think about this and do what you can. I know that my channel doesn't really focus on the technical stuff, but this is becoming political, and it really will impact you. And you people who, not just YouTube, but like people listen to this also on the podcast. Anyone who is consuming this is going to affect you. So I would say that you should do what you can, even in a small way.
Thank you.
All right. Well, bye. I hope that you have a good day as usual, and I will talk to you soon.